what a U.S. prosecutor calls the biggest military computer hack in all time.
A British hacker accused of breaking into Pentagon and NASA system.
Russia indeed, suspect number one here at the Pentagon.
At 2:14 a.m., in a small bedroom in Miami, 15-year-old Jonathan James presses enter. Nothing happens. No alarms. No flashing warnings. But somewhere, deep inside a U.S. military system, doors open quietly, doors that were never meant to be touched by a child. He leans closer to the screen, his fingers hover, a shiver runs down his spine. Because once you enter a system like this, you don't just take information, you leave a footprint. Jonathan doesn't brag. He doesn't panic. He smiles, then freezes. This moment will follow him for the rest of his life. It's the beginning of a story no one could stop, and no one would forget. In the late 1990s, governments rushed online faster than they could secure themselves. Networks were fragmented, passwords reused. Security is treated like an afterthought. Jonathan grows up moving between homes, dropping out of school. Isolated, brilliant, restless. Machines make sense to him. People don't. Online, he calls himself comrade. By 1999, he was inside NASA's systems at the Marshall Space Flight Center. For Jonathan, it's curiosity. For the US government, it's a wake-up call. A teenager just slipped through doors that were supposed to protect a superpower. And from this moment, nothing in his life will ever be the same. Federal agents arrive without drama. No handcuffs. No shouting. Just men who already know everything. Jonathan is charged as a juvenile. He avoids prison. But the punishment is surgical. He is banned from using computers. For a kid whose entire sense of control exists online, it's devastating. The world around him is changing. Cybercrime begins to be treated as terrorism adjacent. Hackers are no longer nuisances. They are threats. And yet Jonathan doesn't stop. By 2007, he was arrested again, this time linked to a massive TJX retail breach involving millions of credit cards. Jonathan denies it completely. There is no trial yet, but the pressure is constant. He believes he is being watched at all times. Imagine being a teenager, smart enough to humiliate the Pentagon, and yet powerless when the system turns on you. Jonathan doesn't speak publicly. He doesn't boast. But the weight of constant surveillance crushes him. Every computer login feels like a risk. Every friend, every email, every digital step is scrutinized. He writes in private messages, "I can't survive another fight with them." Years of brilliance, curiosity, and isolation begin to blur together. The boy who hacked NASA becomes a man who can't breathe under the system's gaze. Even in mundane moments, walking to the store, sitting in a cafe, he carries the invisible hand of the US government on his shoulder. By the mid-2000s, the US government had shifted strategy. Hackers are no longer criminals. They are national security risks. The system doesn't ask why you did something. It asks how dangerous you could be next time. Jonathan faces the possibility of decades in prison, whether guilty or innocent. This is where the story stops being about hacking. It becomes about scale. A single human nervous system versus an institution that does not feel fear, guilt, or doubt. May 18, 2008. Jonathan is 24. That night, he writes messages to friends and family. He insists he did not commit the TJX hack. He says he cannot survive another prosecution. He locks himself in a bathroom, turns on the tap, and ends his life. There is no trial, no verdict, no cross-examination. The government closes the file. Jonathan James is quietly remembered online as the first juvenile sent to federal court for hacking. After his case, cyber budgets explode. Military networks harden. US Cyber Command was created years later. Today, governments recruit hackers instead of destroying them. Bug bounties replace prison threats. But that evolution came after Jonathan. Progress always looks humane once the damage is done.